Welcome back to Become a Calm Mama. I'm your host. I'm Darlene Childress. I'm a life and parenting coach. And this is part 2 of our How to Heal series, where I am walking you through a 6-part sort of hierarchy of healing and giving you some really actionable steps of how to heal from emotional pain, how to figure out what's not working in your life and how to make changes to get to a different state of being, whether you want to feel happier, show up as a calm mama, or not be so reactive. Maybe you want to improve your relationship with yourself, with your body, with your partner, in work, reach more goals. Whatever it is that you want in life, you are probably going to have to go through a process of healing from something that might be blocking you, an obstacle that might be blocking you from getting you to that next state of life. Today on that pod, I'm going to teach you about radical self-trust, and we're going to talk about why that's important and what it means. Before I even get into it, I want to ask this opening question to you, because I was thinking about this. How do you tap into this concept of self-trust? What's the entry point to feeling this experience of self-trust? And I was thinking really it's by having had an experience of feeling very safe with somebody. So I wanted to ask you, is there anyone in your life that you feel completely safe with, that you can admit anything to, where you're willing to say the shameful, embarrassing, negative thing out loud to them, and you trust that they can handle that vulnerability with unconditional love? If you can think of someone like that, just think about how lucky you are. If that's your spouse or your best friend or a parent or a sibling. A lot of people don't have someone in their life that they can completely trust, who they feel completely safe with. And what I mean by feeling like being able to trust is that you feel safe enough to share something vulnerable where you know that their love for you will not change. So that's why last week's episode was all about this unconditional self-love, this radical self-love, and getting to deeper and deeper areas of loving yourself unconditionally. Because that's the foundation. If we think of this hierarchy of healing, self-love is the basis. It's the foundation that we need to be looking at our behaviors, our patterns, our thoughts, our negative feelings, anything that we're wanting to shift. We're not going to be able to shift into new places of healing and self-actualization if we don't start from a premise of self-love. And then the next part of that is self-trust. So what do I mean by radical self-trust? It is this idea that remember I said last week that I was going to give you a set of statements for each concept. So here's your set of statements for radical trust. And it is, I am safe with me. I unconditionally love and accept myself. I trust that my love for myself is unconditional. I'm going to revisit that in a little while, but right now I want you to just kind of start to understand, this is the idea that we're working with, is that I am safe with me and I trust that my love for myself is unconditional. Okay, so let's get into a little bit of what are we healing from, and talk about healing in general, because I think it's helpful to just understand what is it that I'm talking about when I talk about what are you healing from? What's this healing all about? So when I think about healing, I'm talking about emotional pain, and I'm talking about going back and looking at possibly moments in the past, whether that's childhood, young adulthood, your your 20s, your 30s, your 40s. I mean, it could be happening now, but a moment where your core emotional or physical needs were not met. Now, let me talk a little bit about core emotional needs, because this is helpful as a parent. You want to know how to trauma proof your kids and not create trauma for them, right? So they don't have to heal from their childhood. Remember, one of my life missions is to heal the next generation in advance. And what I mean by that is really creating an experience of life where they don't have a lot of trauma, or they don't have wounds, primal childhood wounds that they have to go back and heal from. Now, a lot of you have childhood trauma or childhood wounds that you're going back to heal from. So what are we talking about when we talk about these emotional needs and these wounds that were created when our emotional needs weren't met? So the first emotional need a child has is determining whether they are safe. It is our core genetic species-based need, because babies are born and they're very vulnerable, and they know that they are not able to take care of themselves. And so a baby, that's its first foundational developmental question is, am I safe? And that is this a core need? The second core need is, am I loved unconditionally? So sometimes when I talk about this in, the podcast or in my programs, in my group program and in my one-on-one coaching program, we talk about the developmental questions that kids have. So the first one is, am I safe? The second one is, am I the boss of my body? The third one is, am I good when I'm bad? Now, we don't think of our children as good or bad, but we do sometimes think of their behavior as good or bad. And we kind of say to our kids, that's not good. Don't act like that. And what happens is, a lot of times a kid can interpret by saying, I am my behavior, because they're not able to really separate themselves from their behavior. So we want our kids to start to understand, hey, you know what? You're loved no matter what. You are unconditionally loved and accepted, and your core need for authenticity is met. So our kids have this core need of attachment, which is safety, and they have this core need of authenticity, which is love. So if you at any point in your life have not felt safe or have not felt unconditionally loved, you probably will have a wound from that. And so when we talk about healing, we're going back and we're healing some of those past times where our core emotional and physical needs were not met. Now, what happens if you grow up not feeling safe? This was true for me because I experienced abandonment because my dad left my family when I was a kid. I experienced sexual abuse as a child. I experienced a mother who was emotionally unstable because she had pretty severe depression as well as undiagnosed ADHD. And so she was a lot of times not available for me. She also put me in positions that she chose men that were not safe for me, and my body got hurt. So along the way, I started to decide the world's not safe. Look around. It's the adults are unreliable. The adults hurt you. The adults leave. The adults aren't taking care of business. And so I have a core wound of not feeling safe. So what does that look like? It can look like hypervigilance, scanning for hazards, looking to see, do I fit? Do I belong? Am I okay? Being insecure, literally insecure is the lack of security. And one of the things I worked on all last year in 2024 was internalized security. I wanted to teach my body that I was safe and that I was okay, because I didn't really want to have that anxiety come up all the time, that pressure and that feeling in my chest and, that anxiety feeling. I wanted to train myself to not go there, not create a sympathetic nervous system response. I wanted to teach my body at a primal level that I was safe. That was partly because of that wound that I had, right? Being very controlling is a symptom of not feeling safe. Having the need to know everybody's business, know what's going on, be in charge, direct the traffic of your life. Needing power or feeling powerless, or being really rigid and feeling like if something goes off schedule, everything's going to go bad, right? Not having that response flexibility, being in that rigid space, that is really about not feeling safe. Now, of course, if you don't feel that you're loved unconditionally, that can also look like people pleasing, pushing others away, overperforming, perfectionism, over planning. So you see how when we have a core wound, it shows up in our behavior. And those behaviors are really maladaptive strategies that we used in childhood to cope with pain, to cope with discomfort. Maybe you developed some maladaptive strategies in your adulthood that you don't even realize were there to mask a wound or to fill a hole. And what happens, especially when you become a parent, is you start to realize that some of your current life circumstances, like a kid not going to bed on time or a kid, refusing to eat a meatball or whatever, that you have like a chandelier type response, like an overreactive response. Like chandeliers are in the ceiling, right? So like you kind of hit the roof. It's just this intense reactivity that doesn't really make sense based on the current circumstance. Like you're overreacting, right? And that is an indication that you might have something to heal from, some trigger, some reactivity going on that you want to change. And so that's why we want to heal, is because there's like current life circumstances that if we're responding to them from past emotional wounds, we may be creating more pain, either for ourselves or others. I have so many examples of this in my life. Like the first is just being aggressive with Lincoln when he was little and, wanting to use my body and even hurting his body. I hit him twice when he was little. And I was like, whoa, this is not safe. This is not okay. It's even shameful to admit it to all of you here. But it was like scary to me. I was like, oh my God, who am I? And instead of deciding I'm a monster, I decided to say, I'm a person struggling. I'm a person in pain. I'm a person having an emotional reaction. I need help. And that we have to feel safe. And we have to feel loved in order to go take that action, to be vulnerable, to admit that we are struggling. But that behavior is like the hint, that discomfort, that feeling of shame, that feeling of guilt, that feeling of discomfort, or that feeling of pressure, that feeling of, not being satisfied, feeling of resentment, feeling of anger. Like if you have an intense emotion or you're ashamed of your behavior, I'm not here to judge you. I don't want you to judge yourself. I want you to see it as a hint, as an invitation to grow, to heal. So we look at our behavior today and we start to get curious about what could be going on that is driving this behavior. What wound, what unmet emotional need could be driving this behavior. So when you think about healing, in many ways, it's a form of reparenting. We've heard this phrase on Instagram and TikTok, like, what is reparenting? I think of it not as going back to childhood wounds necessarily and reparenting yourself. I really think of it as being the parent that you need right now. Like showing up for yourself today as the parent that you want right now, which all of us want our parent to say, you're safe and you're loved. I've got you and I'm here. And that's what I want you to do for yourself, is become the parent that you want to be for your children. Become that mom to you right now. Hey girl, you're safe and I love you. There's nothing you can do that would make me love you less. There is no danger here. I am the adult. I'm right here. When we talk about core self from last week, it's that core self that is love and goodness. And that's her. She's the one who is parenting you. And we want to teach you that you are safe with your core self. You're safe with her. Isn't that cool? So you get to become the loving and supportive parent that you strive to be for your kids. You get to be that for yourself. That's what I think of as reparenting. So now how do we do it, right? How do we actually heal? I've kind of talked about this. Healing means just looking at patterns in your life that might be causing pain, and then gently shifting those patterns towards new ones that cause less pain. I was thinking about sharing this and I wasn't sure, but I've said, I experienced sexual abuse as a child. And then that was it's so hard to talk about it, but it was from the ages of 5 to 10. And then when I went into adolescence, I didn't want to be victimized any longer. And I was very promiscuous. And it was like I wanted power. I wanted choice. I wanted to be the boss of my body. But instead of actually listening to myself and actually connecting to what I wanted, believing that I was worthy of saying no and that people would listen to me, like I had so many wounds around this, but that promiscuity really was a maladaptive strategy. It was a pattern in my life that made me feel safe, that made me feel loved, but was actually causing me a lot of pain because I was allowing myself to be unloved and unappreciated and also unsafe at times. So we want to look at our patterns, but the truth is that any of the patterns of behavior that you have, you will not be able to look at those patterns and be honest with yourself, because the next part of healing series is honesty. So if you want to be honest with yourself, the prerequisite is feeling safe with yourself. I can't be honest with how shitty I act or why I'm doing something if I don't feel safe and loved. So remember, this is a conversation between you and you. This is an internal dialogue. And a lot of us hide our own behavior from ourselves. We keep it subconscious. We don't want to take a look at it. We don't want to examine it. We don't want to wonder, why am I doing that? Where's this behavior coming from? What wound could be here? Or what emotional need might not be being met? We're afraid to look at some of our behavior because we are ashamed of it. And we don't want anyone to know. So we want to just put on some lipstick and move on. But that's not going to get you to the shifts that you want. We've got to go through the dirt. We got to go through the junk. We got to be honest about it all. We got to take action. We got to get help. That's the truth. But you can't do that if you don't feel unconditionally loved and unconditionally safe with yourself. Yeah, it starts with you. You can't change anything in your life if you're not honest about it. And you won't be honest about it if you don't feel safe. And you won't feel safe if you don't feel loved. That's why this is a hierarchy. We start with love, we go to safety, which is trust, and then we go to honesty. This hierarchy of healing, the foundation is love and then trust. I think of it as radical trust. So if you want to change something in your life, you have to teach yourself that you're safe, even if you don't do that thing, or even when you are doing that thing. You're still loved if you're being promiscuous. Now, I do want to say something about promiscuity. For me, it was not a behavior based in self-esteem and self-worth. It was a behavior that was based in fear and self-loathing, ultimately. So I'm not over here slut-shaming anybody. I'm just being really clear that you have to know why you're doing something. If it is like sexual expression and you're just, the boss of your body and you're making it work for you, like, awesome. I go for it. I'm not here to say, I've talked about this before, like people have behaviors, they have patterns, they have strategies that on the surface could look unhealthy, but are truly healthy, or on the surface could look healthy, but are unhealthy. An example of a maladaptive strategy for me is dieting. To others, it looks like self-control. It looks like discipline. It looks like really beautiful self-care. But deep down, it's self-loathing and insecurity and restriction and control. And it's because I don't feel safe in my body that I want to make me hungry so that I can be in a hypervigilant state. The fascinating about my eating disorder is really rooted in creating just enough hunger that I am paying attention to my body so that I stay safe. But if I teach myself I'm safe, I don't have to do that strategy. So I say all that because I'm not here to judge your pattern. But I do want you to be judging your pattern, not from negativity. I want it to be looked at from self-compassion, from self-love, from trust, and looking at yourself and being like, I'm doing that thing. I wonder why. What's going on? And I have a lot of conversations that are like, Darlene, what is going on here? And it sounds like I'm being mean, but I'm just like, you're good, girl, but we need to be honest about this. Radical trust is really this deep relationship that I cultivate with myself, that you get to cultivate with yourself, that says, hey, you are safe. You can be honest with me. You are loved no matter what your behavior is. You can trust that my love for you is unconditional. I also like to make promises to myself. I promise I won't be mean to me, right? So it's like me talking to me. I promise I won't be mean to you, Darlene. You are good. You are worthy. You are lovable. You are safe. You can tell me the truth. If for some reason I hurt myself, I trust that I'm going to forgive myself. That's another aspect of it. I also love to trust that I can handle the future. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a strategy to do that. But if I believe deep down that I am the grown-up I've been waiting for, that I'm her, and then I can handle things. My brother and I have this joke of like, who's your grown-up? And really, a lot of times Kevin is my grown-up. Like, what do we mean by that is, who do you go to when you kind of need a grown-up to like help you think through something, make a decision, maybe rescue you a little bit? My brother is like, I'm your grown-up and I'm his grown-up. So I have two grown-ups. I'm my brother and my husband. And I also have myself. And I've been working on being my own grown-up for a long time. And sometimes I think of it as being my own muse. Like, I have different phrases, but the grown-up that you're looking for is you. And you get to trust her. She unconditionally loves you and you are safe with her and she can handle things. So that trust is not just, I trust that you're safe, but also I trust that I've got it. If I can trust that I can handle anything, I said this a couple episodes ago, that I deeply believe that I can solve any problem that comes my way except for death, and death is none of my business. Anything that comes in life, I'm ready. I can handle it. I can figure it out. I can resource myself. I can ask for help. Like, I have taught myself that I'm safe. I've also taught myself I'm safe because I say, I know how to drive and I have a credit card, which is a way that I teach myself that I can get out of any scrap that I put myself into, as long as I have like money and a way to escape. Okay. So you get to pick, what is it for you that you know you're safe because of what? Like, I can trust myself because what do you know about yourself? What do you know is true about you? What do you know that you know about yourself so deeply that makes you feel safe? If you were to say, I know I'm an adult because, what are the reasons that you know you're a grown-up? My sister and I were joking because we don't know how to fold a fitted sheet. And we're like, this is like a failure of adulting. So maybe you don't know how to fold a fitted sheet, or maybe you do. And you're like, hey, I'm really quite the grown-up because I know how to fold a fitted sheet. But you know how to do lots of things, right? You know how to make money. You know how to go to the grocery store. You know how to cook something, hopefully. You know how to do the laundry, take care of some things. Like, what do you already know? What do you know how to do? I'm sure there's lots and lots of stuff that you know how to do. So build up that confidence that you can trust yourself because you can take care of things. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of strategies that I like that help me develop radical self-trust in me. These are strategies that I have used and that I think are really helpful. So the first one I'm calling inventory of resilience. And what that means is making an inventory, making a list of times where you have been resilient, things that you have overcome. And this is really important because if you want to trust yourself today, You need to look for evidence that you're trustworthy. And so going back and looking at the past and seeing things that you have done that you have learned or grown or overcome, or that used to be hard for you, that you eventually figured out how to do. It can be really simple. Like, I didn't know how to drive, and then I did know how to drive, if you know how to drive. I used to not know how to cook, and now I do know how to cook. I used to not know how to ask for help, but now I do know how to ask for help. Whatever it is that you've overcome. Inventory of resilience. Just like, what are you proud of? What do you know is true about you that you think is like, yeah, no, that used to be hard and now it's easy. And it might be difficult for you to think about. Like, parenting used to be hard for me, and then I worked on it and it actually became pretty easy for me. The relationship pieces and dealing with children is always kind of challenging, but I had clarity. Once I created the Calm Mama process, I was like, oh, calm, connect, limit, set, correct. It just for me, it made it easy. Whenever I create a system for something, I'm like, oh, okay, like healing. Okay, now I know how to heal because I know what it takes, right? I know I have to love myself, trust myself, be honest, listen to myself, accept myself, and then take action. It's like, yeah. So what are some examples of areas in your life that you have overcome, that you've been resilient? I used to not know how to do a podcast, and now I have one. I used to not know how to, it's going to sound weird, but sell parent coaching. I was a parent coach. I was qualified, and I had no idea how to tell people to help them. I didn't know where to meet people or how to talk to them about it. And then I learned how. I didn't know how to run a business. Now I know how to run a business. That my marriage was a real in shambles in 2017. I didn't know if we were going to make it. And we kept at it. I learned a lot. I grew a lot. And now I know I can trust myself, that I can handle whatever comes. So give yourself a little pat on the back and tell yourself a good story. Inventory of resilience. So that helps you build evidence that you are trustworthy. So you could say, I am trustworthy because, or I have overcome the following things, some kind of prompt like that. I've been resilient in the past because I didn't know about this and now I do, something like that. The second strategy is this conversation that you have with your past self and your future self. So I want you to tell a good story about the past. Now, let me explain what I mean by this. Right now, you are a person, you're whatever age you are, and you're in whatever life stage you are. Your kids are whatever age they are, and you're making decisions. This is February, so you're making decisions about the summer, maybe summer camp. You're making decisions about next school year. You're making decisions possibly about where to live, whether you should work full-time or part-time or not go back to work, whether you should have your kids do a medical treatment or not, whether you should get them tested for something. Right now, you're being faced with a decision. Okay. Now, how you talk about your past decisions is going to make it easier for you to make decisions today. So right now, the person you are is present, whoever you are. You're in the present, but there was someone in the past, also you, 10 years ago, who made some decisions. And if you look at those decisions that she made in the past and you think, oh my God, what were you thinking? You're such a loser. That was so stupid. You should never have done that. You have a lot of regret. You have a lot of non-forgiveness. You have a lot of resentment towards the past you. That means that right now you're making a decision, but 10 years from now, future you will look at today and think negative thoughts of her. If you're thinking negative thoughts about you from the past and you don't change that right now, in the future, you're going to think negative thoughts about yourself as you are today. You know this about you. If you don't trust past you, future you won't trust present you. I know this sounds meta, but just think about it. So 15 years ago, I moved my kids to a small town. And if I look at that person and I'm like, that was a big mistake. We should never have left the city. You didn't really make good friends. You should have stayed there. And like, whatever. I could have a lot of regret about that. But then I'm making decisions now for the future where we should live or whatever. And it's like, if I'm mean to past me, then that means I'm pretty much being mean to present me. I cannot trust myself if I'm mean to myself, whether it's decisions I made in the past or decisions I'm going to make in the future and how I'm going to think about today. I need to be kind to me, all the versions of me, past me, future me, present me. The kinder I am, the more love I show, the more self-compassion I show, the more kindness and appreciation I show for all the parts of me, all the life experiences, all the decisions I've made, the easier it is for me to trust myself. If I'm shitting on my past decisions and past me, future me is going to shit on me today. And that's not developing trust. Future me needs to believe that I always have her back, that I'm here hooking her up. I'm setting her up for success. I'm doing the best I can for me in the future. I am smart. I am wise. I am making good decisions. Am I making the right decision? I don't know. I know that I'm doing my best and I'm getting as much information as I can, and I can trust myself. But I have to trust past me too. I have to trust current me, and I have to let future me trust me too. So it's kind of this like very strange future me, past me, present me conversation. But I do want to invite you to start building a relationship with your past and with your future self. So doing that inventory of resilience is really good to reinforce this. Like, hey, look at all the good stuff you've done in the past. Look at all the decisions you've made and all the things that were hard that you solved, that you figured out. The kinder you are to the things that you've done in the past, the easier it will be to be kind to yourself today, and the easier it will be to be kind to yourself in the future. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Message me on Instagram or reply to an email. Let me know if it's super confusing. The last strategy is really so basic, but so hard. And it really is about taking care of your nervous system. So what does that mean? It means that we have our parasympathetic and our sympathetic nervous system are activated and our rest state, right? And we're supposed to flow back and forth between a sympathetic, like an aroused state, to a parasympathetic, which is a rest state. And that's how we are meant to be, right? We're not supposed to be at rest all the time, nor are we supposed to be activated all the time. I talk about this in episode 97, Your Nervous System Explained. So go back and listen to that one. Now, how do you take care of your nervous system? Episode 2, where I talk about the pause break, is really, really helpful. I also did a series where I break the pause break down, and we'll link all those in the show notes, but it's like moving your mind, moving your body, moving your emotions. When you have an activated nervous system in the present, right? That's your fear response. That's your unsafe response. You're noticing it, you're soothing yourself, and then you're shifting. So we do that with the pause break. We stop what we're doing and we go and we reset our nervous system. So the pause break is stop and reset. Stop, do nothing, don't talk, don't do it, go take care of yourself. So you're in your activated system. Now, a lot of us don't even notice that we're in an activated stress response. We are not paying close enough attention, partly because of shame, partly because of disassociation, different reasons. It doesn't really matter whenever you notice. You don't have to judge that you didn't notice or did, but just notice and then figure out what it is that your body needs. Most of us need to move and then do some mindset work. So I always say, move your body, move your mind. In the toolkit that I offer for free on my website, if you don't have it or you haven't looked at it for a while, the Stop Yelling cheat sheet goes through the process of how to do this. So this is a really important thing. But recognizing your nervous system is activated and then going through and taking care of it is really important. So those are 3 strategies to help develop trust in yourself. Remember, we're going to be working for the next 4 episodes. So this was episode 2 of a 6-part series on how to heal. And they all build on each other. We're started with love, radical self-love, this is radical trust. Next, you're going to be radical honesty, which is vulnerability. Radical listening, figuring out who you are, what you like, what you want. Radical acceptance, true deep acceptance of who you are and your circumstances and just being okay with today. And then radical action. Like we have to do stuff in order to shift. We have to do stuff in order to heal. We have to create new habits. So I want to talk about that as well. So this is the episode today was all about trust, remembering you're safe with you. You can trust that your love for yourself is unconditional, promising that you won't be mean to yourself. If you are mean to yourself, you can forgive yourself, trusting that you can handle problems when they come up. I'm going to leave you with this final note from Sharon Salzberg, who wrote the book Loving Kindness. I referenced it last week. It's very good. She says, love for others without the foundation of love for ourselves becomes a loss of boundaries, codependency, and a painful and fruitless search for intimacy. The intimacy that you are longing for, the appreciation you're longing for, the respite, the care, the love, the safety, the grown-up that you're longing for is you. And I think she's really, really great. All right, Mama, I will talk to you next week. Hey Mama, if you enjoyed this podcast episode, I want to encourage you to do two things. The first is go to my website, calmmamacoaching.com, and get a copy of the Stop Yelling cheat sheet. You'll get a step-by-step breakdown of the most important tool I teach, which is the pause break. And you'll also get 40 ideas to reset your body and balance your nervous system so you don't have to yell at your kids. You can get a copy of that, again, at my website, calmmamacoaching.com/stop yelling. The other thing I'd love for you to do is go to Apple Podcasts and rate and review this podcast so that other moms can discover empowering and helpful, practical parenting strategies, just like you did today. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. It means a lot to be in your ear every week and to support you on your parenting journey.